Today we're going to be making this super easy balaclava. We'll be making it without the ears, just the base balaclava pattern. It's super easy. We use half double crochet stitches, a few back loop only stitches, and some single crochets, and that is it. A little bit of sewing and you're good to go. If you would like to make your balaclava into an animal balaclava, I also sell a ear expansion pack on my website and my Etsy shop. Cat ears, bear ears, bunny ears, and devil horns. Maybe I will make a video for those in the future, but for now we're just going to work on the base balaclava pattern. I haven't taken this out of its box in a while, but this is the kitty. So I'm going to let you know the materials that we're going to need for this project, and let's get started. For this project, you can use any yarn size, corresponding hook, a pair of scissors, and a yarn needle or a darning needle. It's just a simple panel. One side we've got our single crochets, and on the other we have our neck ribbing. If you work single crochet back loop only stitches here, it's going to be slightly more cinched in. You'll have a little bit more shape going on. To start, we need to determine the amount of chains we're going to need to start the project. To do this, you are going to measure from the apex of your head, the center of the top of your head, to wherever you would like your piece to measure. So I like to have a ribbed cuff, so I always like to make one a little bit longer so that there is enough to make a cute cuff. If you would like yours to end at your collarbone, then that's where you would like yours to end. Just depends on your preference. So take that length, and now you are going to chain that same length. You can cut it if you need, whatever. Chain that length plus 1. We are going to make our slip knot. Put your hook through the slip knot and pull your working yarn. This is your tail. This is your working yarn. Then we are going to chain the amount that we need to reach from the apex of our head to our collarbone, and then if you would like a ribbed neck that you can fold over like a cuff, then you will want to work, an extra however many inches your neck is so that it can be folded over. So we're just going to keep chaining until we have the length that we need. Okay, we now have our chain. It doesn't matter how many is in your chain. What matters is where we put our neck ribbing stitches, and then where we work we're going to work some single crochets in here. These single crochets are going to go at the apex of the head. I like to put 5 or 6, depending, but this is the area that we're going to sew up. It's going to be a flat panel, and then at the end we're going to sew it up, so the end needs to be a little bit smaller. If they're thicker stitches, you'll have more bunching. So we are going to start off with the apex. I like to work into the back humps. You can also work into the front V. But like I said, I like to work into the back humps, so that's what we're going to do. I like to also work into the second chain, so that's what we're going to do. So we're going to work 1 single crochet into the second chain from the hook, and then we're going to work another single crochet. We're going to work, let's do 5 single crochets across the next 5 chains. 1 2 3 4. Let's do one more. Okay, so now we've got our little start. Now we're going to go into our half double crochets, and we're going to half double crochet. First, you need to decide how long your neck is, so measure that part out. 10 11 12 13 14 15 last 16 stitches we're going to do back loop only ribbing. in half double crochet or single crochet, whatever you prefer. After measuring that out, I feel like 12 is probably good enough for me. 1, 2, 3, 12. So I'm going to put a little stitch marker right there so that I know I'm going to half double crochet up to the stitch marker. I'm going to show you a few. So we're going to yarn over, insert our hook into the back hump, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3. Yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3. Everybody does the yarn over differently, yarn over, yarn under. It doesn't matter. So if you're mad about the way that I crochet, I'm sorry, but not that sorry. So let's do it again. Yarn over, insert your hook into the back hump. You could yarn over like this too. Pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3. And we're just going to continue to do that across to our stitch marker. Okay, now you can see we have our apex. We're working on our balaclava. And then this is going to be our neck ribbing. So for the first row, I continue working in the back humps. And then the next row is when I'll begin the ribbing. But this is a good place to keep your stitch marker and to move it up every row so you remember this is where your neck ribbing begins. So work half double crochets along to the end, unless you are working a single crochet or a slip stitch back loop only, then you will start your single crochets or slip stitches here. When you reach the end, you're going to chain 1 and turn your piece over. So now we're going to work our 12 back loop only stitches. And for this, we're going to work into the back V. This is the front V, the part facing you, and the part away from you is the back V. And this is the V. So this is your chain for the chain 1. And we're not ever going to be using this as a stitch. Your first stitch will be here. Okay, that's your chain. Never work into that, not for these projects. Sometimes it calls for that, but it will specifically say. Now we're going to work into the back loop. So we're going to put it there and work your half double crochet. You can see it's kind of dangling off a bit. That's how our ribbing is created. So yarn over, insert your hook into the back loop, insert your hook into the back loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3. So we'll do that again, into the back loop, yarn over, insert your hook into the back loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3. And we're going to work 12. Or however many your neck is. The number isn't really important. It's just what's important is that your numbers stay consistent. It should be 12 on the bottom end, or whatever your bottom number is, should remain that the entire way around. Same thing with your apex number. It should always begin and end with that same amount. Okay, so now I'm going to pull this up and stick this. So when I'm working on my way down, I'll know that's where the ribbing begins. Now we're going to work through the main V through both loops, and we're going to half double crochet across to the last 5 stitches, and in those 5 stitches you will work a single crochet in each stitch. Right? So you can see the ribbing has started there. We're going to work across to these last 5 stitches. Okay, so I'm up to the last 5 stitches, and I just want to show you, if you're ever wondering, you can count them. The stitches, that's a stitch, that's a stitch, that's a stitch, that's a stitch, and that's a stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now we're going to work a single crochet in the next 5 stitches, and then you will chain 1 and turn your piece. So you can start to see now it's smaller here and it starts to open up. So again, where those 5 are, you'll always be putting 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now, again, continue your half double crochet up until the stitch marker. Okay, so I've worked across. Now I've worked my way up to the stitch marker. We're going to be working into the back loops, half double crochet or single crochet, whichever you prefer, into the back loops to the end, chain 1 turn. Continue working this pattern, your ribbing stitches, your half double crochet stitches, and your 5 or 6 single crochet stitches at the apex. This piece you want to measure from the middle of the back of your head to the side of your face just before your eye starts. I will give you a visual of this. This is what you should have going on. It's just a simple panel. One side we've got our single crochets, and on the other we have our neck ribbing. So you want this area to fit from the apex of your head. So first we're going to kind of cinch in the single crochet side. Just kind of smush it together like that. And then you will find the center and put that around the center of your head and fit it around like that. So it should fit from about just the side of your eye, anywhere on the side of your eye is fine, the side of your eye to about the back of center of the back of your head, something like that. I don't know if you can see, my ponytail's in the way. And then as you can see, mine's a little bit long. That's because I made mine long enough for a cuffed neck. So it will look something like this. For the next portion of the pattern, we're going to be working the eye hole or the top and bottom panels. And for this, you're going to need to locate exactly where you want your first panel to stop, which is going to be the beginning of the eye hole. So depending on where this fits on your face and where you would like your eye hole or how much of your eyes you would like, I'm going to put mine right there. So that's where I'm going to put mine, maybe even one down. Yes, I'm going to go one more down. It's always better to go a little lower because when we do sew everything up, things tend to rise a little bit. So put your stitch marker wherever you would like it to start or finish, sorry. And then we will go on to the next portion of the pattern. So I'm just going to add my stitch marker. And I will meet you at the next portion. One thing that I didn't mention was, depending on the size that you made, you might end off on the single crochet side, you might end off on the back loop only side. It doesn't matter. whichever side you end up on, that's the side that you are going to be working. That's the panel that you're going to work. We will work one panel at a time. So for me, I ended up on the neck end, which means where I've placed my stitch marker, that will be for the top panel. So I'm going to want to end the bottom panel depending on how big I want my eye space to be. I don't want my eye space to be very big. So we'll put 2 stitches in between the panels. That'll create, you know, an eye hole, not very big, but that's what I'm looking for. If the top panel will always be the top panel because you need it to cover the forehead like a hat. For the bottom panel, you have the option, you can just do the neck and leave this whole bit open, and then so that'll come to your forehead and this will be your whole face open. You have that option too. So I'm going to do mine. I'm going to work up and leave 2 stitches. So I will be working up to there. I'm going to put my stitch marker so that I know where I'm working up to when I start my bottom panel. As you can see, that will now be the space that's open. We will be working the same exact thing that we were working before, just up to the stitch marker. So 12 back loop only stitches up to, you know, whatever that amount is for you, your half double crochet stitches, chain 1, turn, and repeat. You will repeat this until it reaches, you know, back across to the other side, approximately where you would want your eye holes to end. So we're going to, oops, no, that's back loop only. Now we will work our first back loop only stitch. I'm working from the bottom up. You might be working from the top down, but it is the same thing. Just working up to the stitch marker, working the same pattern, following the same pattern of stitches. Okay, now my half double crochet across, and I will work into this stitch where the stitch marker is. Now we have worked into our last stitch of the panel, of that bottom or top panel, chain 1 and turn your piece. Now this will become your new panel and your new stitch count, your back loop only stitches, and then your half double crochet stitches, chain 1, turn, repeat. Now, if you were working from the single crochet side, it is the exact same thing. You will work your single crochet stitches, work your half double crochet stitches up to or into the stitch marker, depending on where you've placed it. In this case, I'll be working into the stitch marker stitch, chain 1, turn, your half double crochets, your single crochets, chain 1, turn. We are going to be working these panels out until they come across the face. So continue working your panel, whether it be the bottom half or the top half, and come back and I will show you how to start the second panel. Okay, so now we have our panel. For me, it's the bottom panel. This is the ribbing. Okay, now we're going to add our next panel, starting with the first stitch, whichever direction this is going, right? This first row is going this way. We're going to continue going that way. We're not going to start it on this side. We have to continue in the same direction. So even if this is flipped and you were working your panel from the top, if we're starting in this direction, then we work down the way. Just make sure you're working in the right direction. So we want to keep, well, for this situation, we're going to keep 2 stitches unworked. So this is where we're going to put our first stitch. We're going to work our standing half double crochet. It's just a half double crochet without it being attached. So we have our slip knot on our hook, holding that little loop there, yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. I'm now going to work across and half double crochet to the last 5 stitches and then single crochet in the last 5. Chain 1, turn, and repeat. We're just going to create the top panel the same way we did the bottom panel. Chain 1, turn. Again, work your 5 or your however many single crochets you have, your half double crochets, chain 1, turn, and repeat. You are going to work 1 less row than you did on the first panel because we're going to attach this to the second panel. So 1 less row than your first panel. Okay, so now we have, there's 13 rows on this side, 12 rows on this side, and you can tell because they're at different places. So I'm going to fasten off here. Okay, so we've fastened off one side, and we're going to connect the 2 panels together. And to do this, we are going to work a set of chains, and we are going to attach to the other side. The amount of chains that you work will depend on how many stitches you left unworked in between your top and bottom panel. So if you left this entire bit unworked and just worked the neck, then you will need to count these stitches and add back the same amount of chains. So I left 2 unworked, so I'm going to add back 2. Then we're going to take the other panel, find the corresponding stitch, and work our half double crochet into that stitch. You will continue working across, matching up your stitches, working your half double crochets, and then your single crochets. And if you're on the other side, working down, then same thing. You're just going to match up your stitches. So continue working across, chain 1, and turn. Now we chain 1 and turn our piece. You will work your single crochet stitches, your half double crochet stitches, and when you reach your chain stitches, you will work 1 half double crochet in each chain. I've just worked across, and I'm now going to work my half double crochets into each chain. And then continue across, following the pattern. As you can see, we've got a nice eye shape. Now we just need to create our width with more rows. Once you have reached the amount of rows that you need, come back and I'll show you how to finish it all up. So now I've completed my panels and I'm just going to go in and sew in my ends. And you can really do this however you like. I like to sew it back onto the panel. Just it makes me feel like it's more secure. Oops. Okay, so I've went once under this way. You can go in one direction, but I actually like to double back. I feel like it, oh, almost lost it. I feel like it just secures things a little bit. So instead of going obviously back through there, it's going to take it out. I'm going to skip one and go through the next couple of ones. And that just, I feel like it just kind of secures things a little bit better. Go in and do that with all of your loose ends, and then we will sew the project up. Okay, so now we have our panel completed. That's our front. So we're just going to sew up the back. If you would like, when you get to the end, when you fasten off, you can leave a really long tail for sewing this together. But I wanted to do it in a different color just so everybody can see. So for the ribbing, we are going to sew it together a little bit differently than when we sew the rest of it together. For the ribbing, we are going to work our needle into the back loop and then the front loop. Back loop of the first, the front loop of the second. Basically the two inside stitches. And this is going to just maintain the ribbing effect. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. You can also crochet it together. It just leaves a little bit of a thicker seam when you do that. And then whatever side you're sewing, obviously, when you're sewing, that will become the inside of your piece. We'll inside this whole thing out. Okay, now we are at the regular half double crochet stitches. Let me just make sure. Okay, so now I'm going to go in through both of the loops on both sides and just whip stitch along. Continue whip stitching until you reach the top. Now we have sewn up the back seam of the balaclava. Now we're going to be working a running stitch through the entire top. And then we're going to pull it tight like a drawstring. So this is where I ended up. I'll just continue on this side. And we're just going to work a running stitch all the way around. Oh yeah. See, you can just kind of, like a drawstring bag, it'll all cinch at the top. So continue working this running stitch all the way around. So now I've completed the running stitch around the entire top, and now I'm just going to pull everything really tight. And as you can see, it's a cinched top now. If you've used a chunky yarn like me, you might notice that there is a bit of a hole to your cinch. If that bugs you, you can pull it really tight and then secure your top just run a couple of stitches. Run a couple of stitches through the top like this. I like to just grab one on either side like that. Do a little X like that, and then secure it a little bit more. I would do that a couple more times, but I'm not going to because I'm not keeping this. So let's just cut that up. Now we're going to, I'm also going to cut the end over here. Now we're going to inside it out. So this is what we've got finished. You can see the top is nice and cinched in and closed. We've got our eye hole. I've got my cuffed neck. And that is the balaclava tutorial. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you really enjoyed this. If you did, please hit all of those buttons wherever they are on this app. I'm new here, and I really want to keep giving free content in 2025. So let me know if you like this, what I could do differently, and what maybe other patterns you'd be interested in learning from me. I look forward to giving you lots more free content, and please support your local artists.